All right, we're going to start reassembling this head, but before we do so, I'm going to take a wire brush, clean it up a little bit, get all the residue from the old gasket off of there and any like water deposits or anything that are super hard, so I'm taking a wheel towards it to get it straight. All right, so now we're ready, and we're using the assembly lube to put in the valves again, and then taking off those are like the, I guess, the gaskets for the top of the stems for the valves, or for the guides that came along with the head gasket kit. We're just doing those one at a time. Pretty simple, pretty easy, nothing too crazy. Feels good to get those on there. That lube, you want to kind of you want to put it in the refrigerator some. Keep it kind of the viscosity kind of thick. It's really good to put it all the way top to bottom on there. And I think it's, engine oil would be good, but I'm using this lube instead to really get everything kind of going and connect it properly. And then just kind of doing a little cleanup once I finish that. But it definitely feels good to get brand new intake valves into it. The exhaust valves are all fine and we're cleaned up. So now I am getting ready for my valve spring height adjuster tool. And we're going to get that seated in, and the micrometer, and we're going to measure spring height. So this is approximately 1696, which converts to a little bit over 43, I think 0.07 millimeters. This is an intake. This is an exhaust valve, so I should be at 40.5. That means I need to at least add a 1 millimeter and a 0.5 millimeter socket and remeasure and see where we're at. Okay, I'm actually tightening it down a little bit more because that didn't make any sense. That would be like almost 2 millimeters that I would need. So I'm doing this again. I'm past the 7 mark. I'm at the 47.5. 147.5. That would be exactly 2. So something's a little off here. I need to make sure I'm on point. Technically going to remove the bottom piece, right? Because I need to add my shims first. And I'm going to go with this is a 1 millimeter shim in first. And I'm going to go with a 0.5 millimeter shim. Then I'm going to add my seat again. And I'm going to remeasure. Okay, so findings so far. I was trying to measure this, so I had to get 2 of these tools. The first one was a 1.6 to 2.2, and it was too tall to measure this with. I might have been able to get away if I thought about this better, but then I decided to purchase this one, which was like 50-something bucks actually, but it was a 1.4 to 1.8, so it's a lot shorter that would fit. But even when I was doing it with my seat, it was impossible to get the keepers, these keepers right here, around here, because it was just too tall. So what I had to do with one of my the seats is take the seat out, measure, then I could get the keepers on there. So take the seat off, put that on there, put that on top. This goes up a little higher, of course, because it's not all the way down. And then I have enough clearance to put it, measure. Then I go back and I actually was able to put one of these seats on and measure again, and it is 0.8382. So whatever my overall height is, I subtract 0.382 and I get my true height to know how many. So I did 1 millimeter on the intake, 1 millimeter ring, 1 millimeter and 1.5 and a 0.5 millimeter on the exhaust. Same thing with this intake again. It was 1 millimeter and a 0.5 millimeter washer, so 2 washers. And now I'm getting ready to do this one again, and we'll see what we have. So now I'm on this one, and if you can see here, I'm at the 7 mark. Then we're going around, so we're at 20. I'm actually at 22, so if I adjust it a little bit more, about right there, make sure it's centered. That's a 22 mark off of there. So that's 1722, which equates to 43.7388. I'm gonna need two 1 millimeter washers to be within a 41.5, maybe like 41.7, but I'm right there on it. So I need two 1 millimeter washers for this particular intake. All right, so I've already installed 7 of the valve springs with the keepers, and I'm going to show you basically how I did the last one. How I'm doing this last one in particular with the spring compressor. Again, $2 from Harbor Freight. And so what you do is, there's 2 springs actually, outer and inner spring. The big, there is identical. It can go either way, but I choose whichever way, in my perspective, is best. You keep the head of this on here, and it's going to go kind of in between these 2 marks. And what you're trying to do is these teeth are all set. You're trying to get the long one as high as possible, so that you can compress the spring the most. And as you can see here, I'm struggling with it a little bit. Right there, get it locked in. The long one. Oops. I like that. Just want to make sure I get it. It has to fit inside the spring. And this one, I typically try to go 1 up if possible, like that, like that. Then you're gonna put a little elbow grease and turn it because you're compressing it down. You want to try to compress it as much as possible because it makes the job easier. Also, on the block where the valve is, try to put something there that keeps the valve from falling down. So just put it right underneath the valve, nothing too crazy or too sharp or too hard. Even like a nice plastic or something like that, something that won't damage the head of the valve. And this, I will say, there's probably easier tools to use that don't require as much strength, right? But those are more expensive. So you're looking at something like that when it's compressed. And then you're just gonna put this right down on the valve. And you'll notice I have plenty of space. I'm gonna use 2 of my new keepers that I just got. Take my glove off for a little bit more precision, because the keepers are pretty small and you can thumb around with them all day. Okay. All right, I won't worry about it. All right, and again, you have your, let me see if I can get that in the camera. Oops. Stay up. You have 2 new keepers that go around the rings of the top of the valve stem. Now, because you can press this down, you don't have to push down as much because you already got your clearance. You want to install your keeper as the V goes down, or the more narrow side in first. You want it to get it around all the rings of the ridges. Alright, that one's on. Slide it around. Make sure it stays on. It is. And then here's the other side. Then where you kind of jiggle it back and forth just to make sure it's there. It's good. So now I can back off. I kind of pull it up to keep it in range and make sure it's contained within the face. And then turn. Give the longer side an area of clearance to exit out. And the slight tricky part is just wiggling it off as you release the tension. And now it's off. Just going to kind of wiggle until one side is loose. There you go. Now, move this little plastic piece out of the way. And I have all my valve springs attached to my valves. My keepers are in place. They look good. Let me close in for you. me see if I can focus. Hold on 1 second. So now you can see my clips are in place. There. I'm gonna clean up a little bit. It's a little dirty, but you get the gist. And now this head, if we flip it over here, I left the injectors, the spark plugs in, is all ready. All new intake valves. The exhaust valves are fine. Cleaned up the surface. We're going to clean it a little bit more because we've been having it on this box and everything. And then we can start the reassembly.